Conservation Commission being held on August 14th, 2024, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Karen Latin. It's not? Oh, what's today? 7th. Oh, 7th. Sorry. Why I'm ahead of myself. It's August 7th. My name is Karen Latin, and I serve as the chair. Today's hearing is being broadcast live on Xfinity Channel 18 and is being recorded on the on-demand archives available on the town's website. It is being conducted in person, by phone, and by video conference. The agenda, instructions on how to attend, and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. To all participants, whether attending by phone or online, please remain muted unless you've been recognized by the chair. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you're attending by phone, you can mute and unmute using *6. If you're online and you are not a commissioner, please keep your camera off unless you have been recognized. Indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature. So that we have a record of a quorum, I will now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Elise Gordon is not here. Janet Williams is not here. Cheryl Meservey?
Here.
Eric Hilbert?
Here.
We have a new member, Paul Johnson.
Here.
And Associate Member Bob Delvecchio.
Present.
And I am here. We have established we have a quorum. Before we begin the agenda, are there any announcements about any requests for continuances today, Paul Whiteman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Welcome, Commissioner Johnson. Yes, we have on the agenda 3 continuances. The first one is for a field change request at 227 Vineyard Avenue. That'll be continued to August 14th. The next 2 are notice of intents, 177 Countryside Drive and 98 Oyster Pond Furlong will be continued to August 4th. 177 Country will be continued to August 14th. 98 Oyster Pond Furlong will be continued to October 16th, 2024. And there's still 2 people up, unverified, that don't have their cameras off. So if you could turn them off, Frank and unverified, that would be great until you're recognized. Thank you. All right, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. At this point, Paul Whiteman, Chatham's conservation agent, will now lead us through the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First on the agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance from the Town of Chatham. The address is 613 Stage Harbor Road, Town of Chatham, map 13A, parcel 2-24, DEP number SE103606. This was a project for shore access stairs. I think Ted may be online for this.
He's right
Ted,
here.
are you there? Oh, he always goes down. He's so good. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Ted. It's a simple project. The application's complete. They actually filed a existing conditions plan for it, and everything else in the application is complete. Simple, straightforward project. I took a visit and looks like it's in compliance.
Great, thank you. Hi, Ted.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. Ted Keon, Coast Resource Director. Paul gave a very brief and accurate summary. This is a shore access stairs that we had actually gotten a Community Preservation Act grant, so to speak, for this to provide recreational access to probably one of the more popular shellfish clamming areas in Stage Harbor. The previous stairs were kind of a homemade, I wouldn't even call them stairs. They were sort of like a wet wooden slide to go down because they were miserable. But anyway, we completed this near the beginning of the season. Contractor came in, knocked it out, frankly, within a week. And they've been very popular, and they will be extremely valuable to the local citizenry, as the season really gears up in the late season and early fall. I really don't have much more to say. It was a nice job and very popular.
Great, thank you. I have been by them many a time, and they do look amazing. I even went out and walked on them just to say, oh, these are much better, so thank you so
To
much.
say the least.
All right, we are ready for a motion.
I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 613 Stage Harbor Road.
I second it.
Okay, Paul? You can approve.
Aye.
Say
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, the next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now we're going to move on to requested order of conditions. First on the agenda is 43 Edgewater Drive, H. Godfrey Moulton Jr., map 15A1, parcel H125, DEP number SE10 3684. Construction of a 31 square foot addition and installation of utilities and a generator. That was the project.
Okay, is there anybody here for Edgewater? Great.
Yes, Jeff Moulton here.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Have you had time to look at the order?
I have not, but I anticipate what's likely to be in it.
Okay, I just wanted to see if you had anything. Do any commissioners have anything that they would like to modify with 43 Edgewater? All right, then we'll be ready for a vote.
Okay.
All right,
I move that we approve the order of conditions as revised for 43 Edgewater Drive.
I second it.
Paul?
Abstain.
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Okay, thank you very much. I do want to thank the commission. At our first hearing, I'm not sure which member it was, made a suggested change in the mitigation plan. It was an upgrade from what we initially proposed, so thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you so much. All right, Paul, the next one.
The next requested order of conditions is for 26 Salt Pond Road. The applicant is 26 Salt Pond Road Limited Liability Company, map 17J, parcel 9-1, DEP number SE10 3675. The project is extension of an existing stone revetment.
Okay, is there anybody here for 26 Salt Pine?
Yes,
Ron.
Madam Chair, Bob Perry, reaching in by Teams, and I have reviewed the order of conditions. Thank you very much for sending it. I wrote back earlier today stating that we had no comments, so I'll let the commission sort that out. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Do any commissioners have anything that they'd like to modify to this one?
No.
No. All right, well, this is going well. I guess we're ready for a motion.
I move that we approve the order of
Here, I
conditions.
put your name in.
Excuse me? Crystal, was that you?
Shall we do it again?
I don't know. Crystal, did you want to say something?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Great. Then we can go to a motion.
I move that we approve the order of conditions for 26 Salt Pond Road.
I second it.
Paul?
Abstain.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right. Paul, we're ready for the next one.
Okay, next one on the list is 61 Elephants. I'm never going to get this pronounced right, but just bear with me. Maybe before I end my career. Lane 61 Elephants LLC, map 16C, parcel 36-14, DEP number SE10 3686. The project is replacement of an existing concrete wall with a vertical sheet wall.
All right.
Bob, once more, Cape Cod Engineering, and again, I want to thank for sending along that draft. We have reviewed it. I have no comments, so thank you very much. It's another smooth project that was well reviewed. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Any commissioners have anything to add or change? No? Okay, then we're ready for a motion.
I move that we approve the order of conditions for 61 Elephants Lane.
I
Hey.
second.
Paul?
Elephants.
Abstain.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right, we're on to the next one, Paul.
Next one on the list, Madam Chair, is 509 Riverview Drive. Scott Barrett and Kimberly Summers are the applicants. Map 7J, parcel C 60, DEP number SE 10 3687. The project is construction of access stairs over a coastal bank.
Okay, is there a representative for 509? I guess, there is. Hey,
Hi,
do you have anything?
I have nothing to say.
Boy, I am loving this. Do any commissioners have anything to add
No.
or change? No? Okay, then we are ready for a motion.
I move that we approve the order of conditions for 509 Riverview Drive.
I second.
Paul?
Abstain.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay. Paul, we're ready for the next one.
Next on the list, Madam Chair, is 162 Shore Road. The applicant is Tom and Michelle Jennings, map 16D, parcel 15-29, DEP number SE 10 3650. The project is removal of an existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling located outside the outer aura, relocation of an existing accessory building, construction of an in-ground swimming pool and hardscaping, abandonment of an existing septic system and installation of a new IA septic system, and restoration of existing lawn with native plant species. That's the project.
Okay, do we have, okay, I see Stephanie.
Hi, good afternoon. Stephanie Sequin with Ryder and Wilcox. Boy, I'm really sorry to say this. I do have a couple little comments. You're going along so well. Under the findings, number 1, it says the project will result in no change in the 0 to 50 foot aura. We're actually reducing by 850 square feet, which is eliminating everything within the 50.
So, okay, so it should be decreased by 850 square feet. Okay,
Will result in 850 square foot reduction
Right.
in the 0 to 50.
okay,
Okay, and then in the general conditions on page 11O, number 11 and 12 refer to no coastal engineering structure in the future, and there's already a revetment here.
but in the future, that means you can't put something else in. It's not that these are, first of all, the general conditions are meant, they actually say as it pertains to the project, but you're already doing the revetment. That's this project. Oh, no, wait a minute, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Okay, so you want 11 and 12, why do you want those taken out?
Well, because there already is a revetment,
But it says no future.
no future. Okay,
Okay, so,
then that was it.
all right, great. So we'll modify the findings number 1, and then we'll be all set. Correct?
Okay, yes.
All right, then we're ready for a motion.
I move that we approve the order of conditions as revised for 162 Shore Road.
Second?
I second it.
Paul?
Abstain.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Paul, the next one.
Next one is 289 Sea Pine Road. 289 Sea Pine Road Nominee Trust is the applicant. Map 12K, parcel 11C21, DEP number SE 10 3685. The project is proposed removal and reconstruction of a single-family and associate dwelling and associated improvements.
Good afternoon. For the record, Sean Riley with Ty and Bond.
Hi, Sean.
I too just have a few comments for clarification. On page 8, the 8th page, which is designated 11H,
Yeah,
There is an annual survey of the coastal beach area shall be conducted by a
Yeah.
mass registered engineer. We don't have any active erosion on this project, and we're not proposing any nourishment or any remediation for that. And this comment, this condition typically coincides with that type of project to monitor the erosion. So I'm not quite sure that this one is related to this project.
But you could
So
have
this-
erosion in the future, correct? Are you saying that you don't feel it's as a result of this project?
Yeah, I think it was a condition that was added that maybe carried over from a different project. Can you see the screen? We're well away, and we have existing beach grass
Right.
between beach and beach grass between mean high water and the toe of the coastal bank. There's no signs of any erosion.
Okay,
We're essentially just doing restoration and mitigation within the coastal bank.
all right.
I don't think you're going to see anything different if we did do an annual
How about
report.
if we changed it to be photos so that we see that no erosion has taken place, just to be safe?
Yeah, we can include those photos within we're required to do annual monitoring reports.
Right.
For the restoration work, so we can do that, yes.
Okay, so we'll modify it to say that.
Great.
Anything else?
And, yes, so it mentions on page, let me just get down to it. There's Vista pruning, and we don't have Vista pruning as part of this project.
What page is this?
On page, this is page 11N,
Okay,
under the project specific conditions.
yep,
It discusses view corridors and staking them out and reviewing them before the work is done. There are no view corridors proposed as
yeah,
part of this application. So I think
Okay.
that whole section could come out. And then the same with the next E, which is on 11O, the installation of access stairs. That relates to
Yeah.
above ground timber stairs, where we have essentially just a replacement of the inset timber steps with granite. So again, I don't think those two sections would
All right.
apply to this
that's,
proposal.
yeah, okay, I agree, and we'll get those out. I'm sorry they didn't
Great.
catch that, and I didn't catch it.
That's all right.
So.
No worries. Thank you for letting us review it, and that's all we had.
Anything from commissioners? All right,
This revised.
yeah.
I move that we approve the order of conditions as revised for 289 Sea Pine Road.
I second it.
Paul?
Abstain?
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, Paul, next thing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now we're going to move on to a extension request. The address is 80 Bridge Street, AM Menke and Sons, Inc. And the applicants, map 14A, parcel 3-10, DEP number SC 103497. The project is proposed bulkhead repairs. The extension is being requested due to the construction beginning in July of 2024. The order expires in 8/16/2024, so we'll be extending to 8/16/2025.
All right, any questions or comments from commissioners? All right, then we are ready for a motion.
I move that we approve a one-year extension to August 16th, 2025 for 80 Bridge Street.
I second.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay. Next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the agenda is a submitted field change request. This has been on the agenda a couple of times. 227 Vineyard Avenue, Ann Azanero, map 11C, parcel D131, DEP number SC 103471. The project was garage addition and invasive species control. This was an after-the-fact field change request for an extension, for an existing low native New England fieldstone wall for stabilization of a garage foundation and to protect from erosion caused by wind, extreme high tides, and stormwater runoff. Brief explanation, I said this a couple times, but for Paul and the new commissioner, this is being reviewed by the building commissioner because there are soil conservancy district issues which are not under the commission's control. Until that issue is resolved with the owner and the applicant and the building inspector, and I think that will probably be soon, I'd recommend continuing to the 14th. So I approved in the field a small extension to the fieldstone wall, but apparently there was fill placed inside the wall, which is in violation of the Soil Conservancy District bylaw, and that's under the jurisdiction of the Building Commission. So we can continue this to April 14th. That would be my recommendation.
Okay,
Excuse me, August 14th, not April 14th. All right.
all right, then we are ready for a motion.
Is August 14th good for you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I move that we continue 227 Vineyard Avenue to the meeting on August 14th, 2024 for a field change request.
I second it.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right, the next,
We're moving right along.
We
Next
are.
on the agenda.
well, we have a time crunch today.
Good. I'm sure it'll get hung up somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, the next is a request for determination of applicability. The address is 33 and 20 Pine Bluff Road, applicant J.R. Fennell Realty Trust of Harwich, map 2A, parcels 66-36 and 67-41, and R 24-21. The project is proposed sewage disposal system upgrade to replace an existing septic tank and leach pit that has been located within the 50 to 100 buffer zone.
Good afternoon again. For the record, Sean Riley with Ty and Bond. The site may look familiar to you. We were before you several months ago with an RDA to remove the cottage. Can everybody see my screen all right?
Yes.
To remove the cottage and replace it with a new guest house much further away from the Aura. We're here now. The applicant has decided to take advantage of the disturbance to replace a septic system that's within the 50 to 100 foot buffer to a coastal bank, and to replace it with a septic tank and pump chamber and leaching facility that is outside of the 100 foot buffer, which looks like this. It should only be 3 to 4 days worth of work for them to put the new septic tank and pump chamber in and to fill and abandon the existing leach pit. And as you can see, the new soil absorption system is more than 100 feet from the top of Coastal Bank. All of the work is on the landward side of the house. All the access is from the landward side of the house. And it's all within lawn area. There won't be any removal of anything but grass and walkway to install this. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
I have one thing. I have that ZBA approved it on April 4th, 2024. Is that correct? Or is that
correct. They
for that other
approved
part?
That's for the other part.
That's
Yep,
what I thought.
exactly. That was under,
And you have to see, have you gotten approval from health yet?
we have not received approval from health yet. It doesn't require any variances, so it's a
Right.
typical disposal works construction permit. We don't see any issues
okay.
with this, as we are making it conforming. Yep.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Bob?
Hi, Sean, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I went out there, I think it was Monday, and I didn't see any stakes. Nothing was staked out.
Because it's under the garage, actually, in the shed that's being removed. Yeah, I actually I met the owner when I was there, and I made that comment. It's actually going where the shed and garage physically are right now, so that's why you can't find stakes.
Yeah, it's a perfect area, it's already disturbed.
So they have not yet removed that first part that they came before us for.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had the very same question. I said, where are your stakes?
Yeah, okay.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
This is 3.
-3 determination. All right, then we, I guess, are ready for a motion.
I move that we approve 33 and 20 Pine Bluff Road, request for determination of applicability with a -3 determination.
I second it.
Paul?
Through the chair, just procedurally, it looks like there is a hand up in the
Oh,
crowd.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Oh, yes. Joan? Yes?
Hello. Hi. I'm so sorry. It's Joan Moore. I live next door, the abutting property. I apologize. I didn't have a chance.
We can't hear you now that you turned away from probably the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm the abutter to Wadsworth. So I was just trying, and I apologize, I didn't have a chance to look over the plans ahead of time. But as you can see, you can see the house right outside my window. But there's, I was trying to get an idea of where the septic is in relation to our home. But now I hear that you say it was in where the old barn or garage is going to be torn down.
Correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. And when would that work start? If they
They've applied for the building permit for the raise and replace of those 2 cottages. I would imagine that the septic work for this permit would not happen until later on in the project, towards the end of the project. Typically, the septic system is installed near the end, and then they clean up and work their way out. So I would imagine this part of the project wouldn't happen till the end of the project. As far as the other project, if they haven't started already, I would imagine that's going to start probably. I think there might be a restriction from the zoning board, so that project most likely won't start until after Labor Day. That's typical of the zoning board to issue a time constraint.
Right. I hope there's a little time lapse. It's been, a lot of construction for over a year now. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Did we have a second? Did you vote?
I second it.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Paul, we're ready for the next.
Okay, Madam Chair, we're going to move on now to submitted notice of intent applications. The first one on the agenda is going to be continued. It is 177 Countryside Drive, Robert P. and Natalie Coleman, Fuller. The applicants, map 61, parcel N14, DEP number SE103694. The project is construction of additions, renovations, a farmer's porch, and second-story expansion to a single-family dwelling. Work with it, which will occur within 100 foot of a coastal bank on Monomoy River, with riverfront area and within the Pleasant Bay ACEC. And the applicants requested a continuance to the next meeting on August 14th for the additional submission of materials that we requested that did not come in time.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move that we continue 177 Countryside Drive to the meeting on August 14th.
I second.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, thank you. Paul, we're ready for the next.
Okay, next on the agenda is another notice of intent. This one will be continued as well. 98 Oyster Pond Furlong, the applicant Stephen and Haley G. Nadas or Nadas, map 13E, parcel 29-11A, DEP number SE10-3682. The project is construction of a shore access catwalk, and the applicants requested a continuance to October 16th, 2024.
Okay, we need a motion, please.
I move that we continue 98 Oyster Pond Furlong to the meeting on October 16, 2024 for a notice of intent.
I second.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, next one, Paul.
Okay, I think this is where things will
Yeah, I know.
start to pick up a little bit, yeah. So next on the agenda is a notice of intent application for 500 Shore Road. Heather Butler is the applicant, map 16G, parcel 3D-A5, DEP number SE10-3681. Construction of beach access stairs within a pedestrian access easement located at 500 Shore Road. That is the project.
How are you?
Doing
Go
well,
ahead.
thank you. Good afternoon, Commission members. My name is TJ Hurry. I'm an attorney from C&E Associates, together with Don Bracken, who is the project engineer, and one of our clients, Heather Butler, is with us in the crowd this afternoon. We've been before the Commission a couple of times. About a month and a half ago, we received some input with some revisions to the plans, namely beach grass underneath the proposed stairwell, as well as a couple of other revisions that we worked into the plan that we hope that the Commission looks favorably upon. So to go over those revisions themselves, I can turn it over to Don, and I'm available for any other additional questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Don Bracken. We added a note 10 specifying a beach grass mix for any disturbed areas. This mix is basically the same mix that was approved on the previous order of conditions for the bank restabilization that was approved last year. The other change that we did was we relocated the winter storage of the removable section, the last section, to be located on the first landing on the stairway itself, so we wouldn't be bringing it all the way up to the stairs and storing it on the property.
And is that landing big enough to support it?
Yeah, it's just big enough. In the end,
Okay.
if it has to hang over a foot or two to the next set of stairs going down, it can.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't appear to be quite long enough, but yeah.
Yeah,
hang
it can
over.
overhang a little bit, but most of it will be on that landing. It'll be tied down with probably bungee cords or rope or something.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Commissioners, go ahead, Bob.
Hi. The pool fence, that's going to be reconfigured to, keep people away from the pool? It's a safety fence, correct?
Correct. I think, yeah, the plan that we've submitted for the record just shows that, the sections that need to be removed within the easement itself. The exact details on how that's going to be reconfigured, we don't have any control over that right now, I don't believe.
So that's someone else's responsibility?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, we just have to make sure that's going to happen, you know what I mean? For safety's sake.
Yeah. It was a concern of mine as well.
Yeah.
Could that be a condition on the plan, in the order of conditions?
We'd usually want to see how it's going to look on the plan, because when somebody goes out, our agent, whoever that might be at the time, hopefully it's still Paul, needs to know what's supposed to be happening. So just saying that it needs to be taken care of sort of doesn't tell us what will be being done. So I don't know how you deal with that aspect.
I think that falls back on conversations with the current owners and
Right.
probably their legal staff. So I maybe TJ can step in and tell you where we're at with the conversations.
Okay.
All right, so as far as conversations, with the owners of 500 Brereton Drive and through their legal representation. The plan before you is the best that we could get to. I know that we were instructed to reach out and chat with their attorney. I did so. And if the commission has any concerns about the pool fencing itself, I know that it is within the easement area. We are allowed to use the easement area.
Correct.
I believe on the plans it is indicated as removal.
Is there a way within your easement area to reconfigure it within the easement area?
I'm sure there is a way that we could come up with some sort of detail on how that's going to be accomplished. Obviously, at the last meeting, we were hoping that it would be done together with the owners, but we could come up with our own solution, and whether they accept it or not, at least it will be on a plan for you to approve.
Well, it would be, if it's within your easement, then, I mean, just like, we don't have any say in how they feel about anything. You know, we're looking at this project as your project. So as long as it's within the easement, we can then accept that. Whether anything happens after that, we have no control over. We are just looking at this project as its own being. So if you can find a way to reconfigure the fence, that would be very good, because it is a safety issue.
My guess is it would probably require an additional fence along the edge of the easement to enclose it, which might be like 60, 70 feet, something like that, so. But we'll look at it and do what we have to do, yeah.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah, and perhaps maybe get something in writing and maybe a design for that fence.
Well, if they put it within their easement on this plan, it's their project. It would be wonderful if everybody could work together, but we've gone through this for a lot of months. So, and you say you've tried.
As an alternative to actually removing the fencing themselves, would the commission be amenable to sets of gates?
You're leaving the fences is?
You can't, you've got to go up if
Yep.
you're going to talk. Sorry.
That's okay.
So you're saying replace it with a fence/gate?
Yes, use the existing fencing that's there, but to the extent that the fencing interferes with our access through the easement area, we would propose gates.
I think that would take care of it.
That way, that would take care of the safety aspect of the pool fence.
Yeah, so then what we would need is a new plan that shows that rather than removing the fence, that you're putting in a gate with the specifics of that, that part.
Self-closing gates?
Yeah, I'm sure, we'll make sure that we specify self-closing and in compliance with the safety issues for pools and so
Right.
forth, yeah.
Okay, anything else, Bob?
And would you be getting together with the owner of 500 as well on this plan? Just to make sure they're comfortable with that?
Yeah, I can continue conversations, but again, I'll keep those conversations private, but to the extent that I have had conversations with them, what's reflective on the plan is what's on the plan.
Right, the gates will be on the easement anyway, right?
That would be correct,
Yeah,
yes. So that would at least allow us access
Yeah.
through the easement area.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr.
When-
Ziegler wants, Mr. Ziegler's raised his hand. He represents the owner.
Mr. Zager, Adam Zager?
Yes, I represent Stephen and Stacy Brierton and the trust through which they own the property. We have had conversations with the applicant's attorney, but just to be clear, we do not consent to any kind of removal or alteration of the fence or any kind of installation of a gate. That structure has been there for what we understand in excess of 20 years. We don't think they have a right to remove it. That's obviously a private property issue. The reason I raised my hand is because there's another concern that we've been sort of struggling with on this application. Obviously we don't support it, but our understanding of the bylaw is that mitigation is required. When we built, had our permit issued for our stairs that are going down the center of the property, we essentially had to do one-to-one mitigation. And this application is proposing no mitigation. And we think that's problematic, and we're struggling to understand how the commission seems inclined to approve it without any kind of mitigation happening. So we'd be interested in hearing from the commission on that issue.
And I understand that concern, and it was a concern of mine. First of all, I believe your owners have put in mitigation in that area, correct? For their projects.
We have put in mitigation for our project, but that
Correct.
mitigation does not cover the square footage for this project.
Correct.
So it's like this project is not providing any mitigation.
They have said they will do beach grass in disturbed areas. And the thing is, there is no real area for mitigation, given that you all have already done the mitigation in that area for your property, because it is your property, but they have this easement. So Paul.
Right, but that in our.
Well, wait a minute. Paul Whiteman, can you speak to this a little? Because we discussed it.
Sure. I think that the commission looked at the mitigation issue, and there isn't much room to do any mitigation given the nature of the easement, how small it is, or at least the width of it. Most of it's being taken up by the project itself. It is unusual to not have a mitigation for a project. In this case, I suppose it could be justified on the basis of what I just said. But, some beach grass, we could even consider some off-site mitigation that could be applied if the owners, if that would satisfy them and the easement holders were willing to do that. I could figure out somewhere we could do some off-site mitigation, which is permissible. But I don't know that there's any area on the site that will hold or take any mitigation. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, we would have to dig up your mitigation to mitigate it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly our point, though, is that if you can't do mitigation and you're not, and we're not willing to allow off-site mitigation, it seems to me
it's not your call to make off-site mitigation. You don't get to decide that. That's the commission's decision.
We have in the past, if a project, the area does not support the ability to do mitigation for the project that's been proposed, we have allowed that property to do mitigation elsewhere, and we determine where it's usually town property, so that they're not doing mitigation. And this is something we've been discussing and trying to figure out how to deal with it. Also, your coverage table says that's, all not applicable, and you actually are modifying within the aura. And so, the square footage should be reflected in there. When somebody does stairs, the area calculations table is usually filled out with how much square footage is being used for each area, the 0 to 50, no disturb, and the 50 to 100 outer aura. So that is, yes, Mr. Zager, you have brought up a valid point, and it is something we've been struggling with because this is highly unusual doing it with an easement. And given that you have already done mitigation on the bank, which is where we would usually expect it, and they have said that any disturbed areas, they would put beach grass in, but, you know, other than that, it's hard because you already have the mitigation going in.
Right, but they would not have the right to, I mean, they have a 10-foot easement along the boundary line of the property. So it's not like we've used up their mitigation. They would have no right to put any mitigation measures in any portion of the property other than within their
Correct.
easement area.
Correct,
And-
but from what I know, and we've dealt with this property quite a bit, they have, the property owners have put, before all this started with the steps going down in the easement, they had mitigation going over to that area. So it makes it hard for, you can't double up your, in the same area, the mitigation. So I will ask them to evaluate the bank and come with a plan. We were not approving this today anyway. So, and we will go forward from there. They'll give us the coverage because we do need the coverage table in order to even issue an order. And we'll see, you know, we'll get more detail on their mitigation besides that they're putting in beach grass. We'll get the square footage of beach grass they're putting in. Okay?
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, on note number 1 on the plan, we broke down the areas of structure within each resource area.
Mm-hmm.
So you want that broken down again to include within the buffer zones. Everything is within a resource area right now, so nothing is actually
Right.
within the buffer zone.
But you see,
so-
usually, well, we have, you know, the no we need the how much square footage on the coastal bank, how much, you know, 50 to 100, all of that. So just like every other plan
Yeah.
that we ever receive. And you have, I believe, top of coastal bank, I don't know that you have the 50 or the 100 marked on your plan.
Well, because all the work
yes,
is
you do.
below, well, we have it
Yeah,
for the
it's
resource
all on
areas.
the coastal bank.
Yeah, but
primarily.
there's no work within the buffer because it's all in the resource.
Right, but the coastal bank, yeah, coastal bank is still an area, so you do, if you could just, I guess, yes, you do have it on the plan, but usually we see that as a separate thing. You can leave it on
Alright.
the plan.
All right.
So,
And the other thing, a lot of it is already vegetated, so the note for the grasses are only what becomes disturbed during
is
the
it
construction.
vegetated with invasives or
I'd
all
have to go
native?
back and check.
Because it will
I
have
don't-
to
I-
be native,
Yeah, I don't believe so, but that is something that we could take a closer look at.
please.
And part of the mitigation that I think we talked about before is there's an existing footpath on the
Correct.
ground. So that obviously would be removed and revegetated. We have that note on the plan.
Correct.
But we'll take a closer look at it with if there's any invasives and come up with a plan for that removal. And maybe put it in a table form for disturbances that's easier to follow.
Mr. Zager, you have something else?
No, that's sufficient for now.
Oh, okay, I saw your hand was still raised, so I thought maybe you
Oh,
did.
no.
Okay.
Nope.
So when could we continue this to?
I mean, we probably need 3 or 4 weeks to get someone out to evaluate the invasives and so forth,
Right.
so.
So we're looking at September. We have, how about the lovely date of September 11th?
That's fine with me, is that good with you?
That's fine with
Okay,
me.
then we will continue this to the meeting on September 11th. That's okay.
I move that we continue 500 Shore Road to the meeting on September 11th, 2024 for an order of conditions.
No, notice of intent.
Notice of intent.
The odd.
Want me to read it again?
No, for a notice of intent.
I second it.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
All
time
right.
this afternoon.
Thank you. All right. The next one, Paul.
Okay, Madam Chair, next on the agenda is a notice of intent. The address is 97 Tilapy Run. Staging and access on 75 Tilapy Run. The applicant is TR 97 Nominee Trust, map 14A3, parcel 2B, and N131, DEP number SE 103690. This is an emergency repair of an existing coastal engineering structure, which you're all very familiar with.
Okay. Go ahead.
Dan Charmickle here with Time Bond, representing the applicant.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
Do you mind if I do a quick screen share? I have a brief
Not at all.
presentation. Awesome. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. I will get started then. So, here today to, there we go, present some updates to the commission. There was some additional information that was requested at the last meeting. So we're going to update the commission on planting plans for 97 and a small area on the 75 Tilapy Run parcel. Some additional mitigation measures that are planned to be provided. We have some clarifications on the Chatham buffer zone impacts, and then some responses to agency letters, and most specifically, property ownership questions along the shoreline that we will be clarifying with the commission today.
Okay.
So here is a planting plan of what is to be, what we are proposing for planting at 97 Tilapy Run. You can see this area down here is the revetment area. This is the house and some of the hardscape pool area that's up here. This is the existing access that used to go down to the shoreline. So we're providing plantings all along the edge here. Small pathway area here along the shoreline. Typically this is used by the homeowner to access the beach over here. And then a small pathway here to access other portions of the shoreline. And then we have plantings proposed all along the shoreline. I will say one change or revision that needs to be made on this plan. Instead of red fescue along the pathway, the plan is to use wild strawberries instead of the red fescue. So that is a quick overview of this planting plan. And then over on the 75 Tilapy Run parcel, just as a reminder, so this is where the access road for the work on 97 is coming down. There's already an existing approved planting restoration plan for work on the 75 parcel. So the area to be restored is just the access roadway here. So here is the planting plan for this area. This is the disturbed area here. So we have some, eastern red cedar, beach plum, northern bayberry, Carolina rose. It's a relatively limited area because it's just the access roadway on this parcel. Additional mitigation measures. So the applicant has already made a sizable payment to the in lieu fee program that was made to the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game to pay for off-site mitigation measures. And then the applicant has already put road plates over the tide gate on Morris Island Road, and the applicant is agreeing to leave those road plates in place, and those will become property of the town. Some clarification on the local bylaws, local bylaw buffer areas. So we put together the table, and then we also provided a figure showing where and how the areas are calculated here. So the only actual proposed hardscape is just the area of the granite pavers that were to be along the pathway here. And then the rest of the area for mitigation is additional planting areas outside of the revetment. There is a small area of the revetment where it's a 2-layer revetment. So for the crest, as we talked about this in the previous meeting, the top is going to have a single layer of armor stone, and then there's going to be sand fill placed on top of that, and then that area is going to be planted. So it is structure, but the structure is buried, and it's going to be planted with vegetation on top of that. And then the question of land ownership. So this question was raised by Natural Heritage. The GIS maps for the state and for the town show the parcel at 30 Wikis Way over here extending along the shoreline and connecting to the nature preserve. After doing some deep dive into registry of deeds and property plans, et cetera, so we find that, so this is a screenshot of the recorded plan for the parcel at 97 Tillipy Run here. You can see United States of America Department of the Interior. This property extends all the way around here, and obviously this is our shoreline over here. This would be the parcel at 30 Wikis Way. And then looking at other recorded plans. So this is the recorded parcels for 75, 59, and 27 Tillipy Run. To show you, and obviously this also shows land along the water side here. But in doing a little bit of a deeper dive here, and this is just for a kind of comparison purposes to show you how far off the GIS mapping is. So this recorded property line is 245.94 feet going from the roadway here out to this bound. So if we measure that same thing on the GIS maps, 204.4 feet. So the GIS maps are off by about 40 feet on the property lines. And then also getting some more information on the site. Morris Island, very dynamic environment. Using CZM's records here, we can see that the shoreline of Morris Island in this area has retreated about 210 feet since 1951. Those recorded plans, the one for 97 Tillipy dates from the mid-50s, and the rest of the parcels is from the mid-60s. Since that time, that shoreline obviously has receded significantly. And we did a survey with a PLS on site. We recovered the recorded bounds that are on there, and the survey and all the available information shows that that shoreline land that was owned by the U.S. government is now completely underwater and no longer exists. So that clarifies that issue. All of the work being done is on property owned by the applicant. And that is it. And with that, I'll open it up to discussion from the commission and questions.
Okay. The 75 Tillipy mitigation plan, can you tell me how many trees were taken out for that access road within our jurisdiction?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I want to say it was 2 or 3. It was not that many over there. Because this area was just vegetated right along the border here. I can confirm with the owner at 75.
And
I don't know what the number is.
I'd really like to know where they were located, whether they were in the NDZ or the outer aura, because that does determine how many trees should be replacing. So that is important. As far as mitigation, we had said, or I had said in a previous meeting, that part of the mitigation could be the removal of trees from underwater that are in front of the property. I don't see that mentioned.
Yes, so that was talked over with the applicant. legal team has significant concerns about doing that work off his property and doing that off-site. So they strongly recommended that he not agree to doing that work.
But you're putting boulders in underwater, but you're saying that then the trees, you have concerns about removing trees, but not about putting something else in? Am I correct?
His legal team had concerns about doing work off his property. If a hydraulic hose breaks, removing trees, things like that. It was concerns from his team, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, but
Nor am
that
I.
that is what they recommended.
Okay.
I will say he's also providing significant payment to the in lieu fee program to provide offsite mitigation for the property. He's providing the road plates at no cost to the town. He's also providing a rigorous planting plan to replant, revegetate the site. So it's quite a bit of mitigation taking place already.
Right. All right, so when you did your coverage, your coverage calculation table, this does not include what the boulders that you propose to put underwater, correct?
This table is for the buffer zones. All of that other work is in resource areas. There's a very small area here that is in the buffer zone, and that is accounted for in the table. But it's also being planted with plantings.
Right, okay, and I do understand that you know, and I appreciate that your owners are leaving the plates that are on the gate, but if we didn't have these trucks going over it, we wouldn't have that issue, correct?
There is no issue. The town requested that the plates be provided.
Right, because it was eroding on the sides, I believe, of the road, and it was going to fall in. So, you know, I do appreciate that the plates are being left, and they need to be down anyway for the entire project, since you will still have trucks going over that gate for 4 properties with boulders. So if the homeowner has concerns about not legally not wanting to get these trees out of the water, which are a huge safety hazard in that area, I'd like to propose, and I haven't really thought this out, but we just had an order where we did something similar, that we maybe could set up a special fund and that would fund the town removing those trees. It releases the legal worries of your owners, and they would, and I have zero idea how much or how this would work, because I'm just floating an idea. They would put money into the fund that we would then, as a town, be able to use to remove those trees. And I see Paul's hands up, so I'm going to let him get into this.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple of comments. Ted can speak to the issue of the integrity of the tie gate and why those plates need to be there when I'm finished. But some of the trees that are in there, I believe, are still from the applicant's property. I don't know what this contribution that was made to the agency was. It's a matter of public record. You probably should disclose it. You say significant amount, but it's not private. I mean, it's a public agency, and you know it should be disclosed if we ask for it. But I guess what we're asking is, would your client consider the town taking responsibility legally and paying into this fund to remove these trees, some of which are your clients, and I would say that because the wall failed, the erosion was exacerbated south, and you could make an argument that it's contributing to the trees that are there. They're a significant issue to the town, and I would think that your client was going to do a robust landscape plan anyway. I guess what we're asking is you to go back and look at that issue with your client and talk it over with him. And we've really bent over backwards to help you with this application. We've had 2 emergency certs issued. The first one was for a bulkhead project. It turns out that borings were done after the bulkhead plates were ordered. The soil was liquefied. The decision was made not to use the bulkhead, but to come in with a rock revetment. It extends 400 feet out into the channel. It's a significant project, and those trees are really important mitigation issues. So I guess we'd like you to go back and see what your client says about that. And Ted made the point yesterday that we could take the responsibility for the liability and the legal issues if your client's willing to pay into that fund. And if Ted wanted to just chime in through the chair on the plates and what I maybe add to a little bit about what I just said, I'd appreciate that.
Ted's not here.
He's online.
Oh, he is? Okay,
Yeah.
great. I didn't see that he
I know
was.
he's there because I just went in his office.
I didn't see his
Ted?
name, but that doesn't mean anything.
All right, let me just grab him.
Okay. In the meantime, your thoughts on what's been said?
Sure. So the applicant has paid $187,000 into the in lieu fee program for mitigation. The road plates come at a cost of $25,000 to the applicant. I guess there are some trees that have come off the property. Definitely not going to deny that. The nature preserve next to it is eroding at a rapid clip. Where
Correct.
I would say probably 95% of the trees, probably more, have come from. I guess how do we put guardrails around expectations for the applicant as to what he should be providing?
I think that can be
Ted's
done.
here now, Paul. He just walked in.
Okay.
Ted, we need you. We need to hear your thoughts.
I heard my name and I ran down.
Yes.
I don't know the question, sorry.
We were, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I'll just, I just did a brief overview, Ted. I talked about some of the trees being the applicant's trees, that the fund that was paid into, that would be, public information, and they could probably disclose that significant amount of money. But would the applicant be willing to pay into an additional fund to help us with the tree issue, which is a serious navigation issue for us? We would take the legal responsibility, as you suggested yesterday. And then I added a little bit about the plates and the fact that we probably wouldn't have those there but for the amount of weight that's going over that tie gate. And maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit. And then also I mentioned that the erosion was definitely exacerbated south on Fish and Wildlife property as a result of the failure of the wall. And probably the wall itself helped to contribute to that over the years. So those are the things that I said, Ted.
Okay, I'm not sure what the question I need to respond
Question
to,
is-
but
yeah. Question is,
as far as the
would you
tie
be-
gate, I agree that the truck traffic probably exacerbated an issue that is a legitimate issue that's been ongoing. I mean, the tie gate is deteriorating.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So the plates and the side macadam that was added was very important for this project, for the work to occur, and should continue to be placed there, maintained. As far as the trees, I mean, we know there are a lot of trees, many of which, most, have come from the adjacent property. Many of the trees that are still out there are on the tidal flats adjacent to that property. those are not the ones that we are right now specifically, we're interested in having the applicant consider removing. It was the deeper water trees that are frankly Commonwealth tidelands that are the ones that we're concerned about, because they are very difficult to date for us and our own contracting crews to try to remove. And we felt that that was an appropriate mitigation effort for the applicant. I heard a brief comment that, you know, they're already placing stone underneath the tidelands. Well, the trees are in the same jurisdiction. It's presumably, it's not really Fish and Wildlife land, it's Commonwealth tidelands. Again, I'm not sure what other questions they were looking for me.
Well, I had floated the idea of them donating to a special fund that would allow the town to remove the trees, since the owners have been advised by their legal advisors that there is a liability.
Right.
And I did say I have no idea how much that would be or how it would work. It was just an idea I was floating.
I mean, it seems like a reasonable approach. I mean, we're comfortable taking on that liability with an appropriate contractor. I mean, in essence, we're kind of doing it now as best we can with local folks. They just can't get to or handle some of these larger trees that are underwater. And they're moving around. There's no question about that. So if that were ultimately agreed upon, I think we'd be very willing to pursue that. Likewise, I think you had already mentioned, I don't know what that would cost either.
Yeah, and I don't know how we'd have to do some research to come up with some sort of an idea of an amount. And that would be as long as the owners are amenable to this. I don't know if how they're going to think, but I would like it to be offered to the owners, and it would be considered mitigation.
And I did want to, because I heard Paul reference this and I want to comment, I do agree that there is some level of exacerbation of the erosion adjacent to the property with the revetment that's going in. I mean, that's a well-known situation that you have a hardened shoreline next to natural shorelines, if you will. That erosion gets accelerated through denial of material entering in the system, as well as wave, changes in the wave directions as it approaches and hits the wall. I mean, we see all that obviously up at the northern end as well.
Correct. All right. Thank you. Do you have any comments, Dan, on this?
Dan, jump in here for the commission. I'm Bryony Angus. I'm with Ty and Bond as well. Also here on behalf of the applicant. Just to Mr. Whiteman's last brief comment, the commission knows we're also undergoing review by a slew of other agencies right now, and various state agencies and MEPA have raised the same concern about the end erosion, and I think we'll be conditioning monitoring of that, so that's something that the commission could also consider. With respect to the discussion of a fund for tree removal by the town, just so that we can appropriately communicate this to our client, I'd like to better understand the commission's jurisdiction here. The mitigation under the bylaw and the regs is for buffer zone impacts. The majority of the impacts here are land under ocean, below coastal bank, below mean high water, no requirements for mitigation per se in the Wetlands Protection Act, and as Dan mentioned, we're already subject to compensatory mitigation through the Army Corps process. So no one's disagreeing that the trees are an issue, and I think hopefully town staff will communicate that Dan and I met with them to try and come up with a solution to this, but this is where we are. But I want to understand the commission's jurisdiction to push for this on top of the planting plan and the road plates that have been offered.
Well, to clarify, initially, before you had a mitigation plan, it was presented that we were very open to the removal of trees being a part of that mitigation plan. Yes, it's unusual, but we have a safety issue, and there are trees that came off of the owner's property, and we need to get them out of the water. So that's why this is part of the discussion. It's not normal mitigation, nor are the plates normal mitigation. And we appreciate the donation of the plates, but the plates are there because we needed them for your project, because it was damaging the road and the tidal gate. But the tree removal out of the water, we were saying could be a part of a sort of a solution. And it's, as I said, it's not the ordinary way we go, but we have such a concern about safety in the waters and the amount of people who go by there all the time, and God forbid something happen.
I think it's just, and it honestly might be a language thing. I think it's the way we're phrasing it. I think our point is that with the planting plan, the applicant is sufficiently mitigating for the impacts within the buffer zone. Like, we understand
You're right.
the safety.
You
of
are.
the
You
trees.
are very, your
Okay.
mitigation is very good. And we appreciate that. We still feel that there's another aspect that needs to be dealt with. And whether you pull back some of the other mitigation, you could do that. That's your prerogative. But if we could we need to get these trees out, and some of them are yours, and your property owners, and it's a concern. So.
Okay, that's helpful clarification. And that honestly makes, we're between the commission and the applicant, so that makes it helpful to communicate back.
And I could add this, and I don't know if Ted's still there, but
He is.
I guess it would be upon us to come up with some the parameters that we'd like to see addressed with the tree removal, and then get back to you with those parameters. As far as mitigation goes, we do off-site mitigation. The regulations don't prohibit that, and this is really more of this is such an unusual project, the largest revetment I think ever done in Chatham. And we appreciate everything that your client's done. I hope you appreciate everything that we have done. This is an issue. The tree issue is a really huge concern for the harbor master. And if you can work with us on it, great. If you come back and say no, then I don't think we can force you to do anything. But we'd really appreciate the cooperation, because we've been really working hard with you to cooperate with you, and me specifically, to issue multiple extension orders with dates that start after those orders are signed, which is unusual. 2 different projects that were proposed, and it's a significant problem. So we'd like your help with it. If your client has the resources to do it, we'll take on the liability issue, but it's up to us to get the parameters laid down with Greg, Ted, and Jason, the harbor master, and get back to you with some scope that is, reasonable, and that you can present to your client. Sound fair?
Yeah.
All right. I think at this point, if anybody else has any other commissioners, I would very much appreciate.
Mine's easy.
Go ahead.
The access road, it's all hard pan, I would imagine, because the 10-wheelers were backing down there all day long. Are you planning on excavating the surface of the hard pan, replacing it with some soft fill or sand before you plant?
The road right now is geotextile laid over the existing subgrade, and then followed by probably 6 to 10 inches of 3 to 6 inch stone. Obviously, we need to remove all that in order to replant, so all that will be removed. And then, the area yeah, the area will be prepped for planting.
Thank you.
Okay. Bob, do you have anything?
Just piggybacked on that, the irrigation system will have to be reworked as well, correct?
So the area on 75, I believe, has irrigation, and that would be, restored to its original condition. I believe some of that was kind of removed to put in the access roadway as part of the initial excavation. The area on 97 that is being planted was not, it was not and is not currently irrigated. The plantings will be maintained, but there's no plan to install permanent irrigation on the coastal bank over there.
Terrific, thank you.
Cheryl? Okay. Paul? Anything? Okay. Paul Whiteman, do you have anything else?
No, I'm all set. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Dan.
All right. Then we are going to need to continue this. Dan, when would you like to continue it to?
Let's do, assuming the town can get on this pretty quick, I'd like to go to your next available meeting, which I believe is a week out from today.
I'd really prefer, could we continue it till the 28th of August? Would that be possible?
I guess we can.
The reason, and I will tell you the reason, we have some key players who are unable to attend, and we need, in order to have this move forward, we will need them.
Okay, I will caveat it with the project is scheduled to restart the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Right.
It is still an emergency. We've obviously been working with the commission to provide everything. We need to be able to close on that so we can get started and finish up the
Our
emergency.
hope is that on the 28th, we can come to a final answer, and then we are scheduled for the 4th of September to meet, and which is the day after Labor Day, but we could have an order for then.
For
September 4th, as long as we have come to an agreement on the 28th.
Okay, I'm still, so that's, I guess let me just look at a calendar here quickly.
September 4th is the day after Labor Day.
Okay.
And if the order's approved, I could get Crystal to,
September 4th is the Wednesday after Labor Day.
okay, Wednesday
So we
after.
wouldn't be able to start until Thursday at the soonest for construction. I guess that doesn't really work
Correct.
for the construction schedule.
Correct. We're doing the best. Unfortunately, with this being the summer, we have issues with people being away. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna, Dan, if we lose Janet for more than 2 meetings, you're not gonna be able to vote. You can only miss 1 meeting.
Would miss Elise, too.
Right. So it would be, there'd be quorum issues, and
Yes.
we don't want to have that. We want to be able to move forward with it. But if we have a quorum issue and ineligible commissioners because they missed too many meetings, then we can't do it. We have to start again.
So there's no possible way to appear on the 14th. We won't be able to get a vote.
They're both
Quorum issues.
unavailable.
I can't vote twice.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
tough. There is a chance Elise can call in, but I can't guarantee it, and then Janet's out, and then we have a quorum issue. And the 28th, you're out. But you're out the next 3. So, really, it's actually, unfortunately, in your best interest to wait till the 28th. In order to have a quorum, because if we can't have a quorum, and if we don't have a quorum next week, we wouldn't be able to deal with it anyway.
I guess, can we, when will you know if you're going to have quorum for next week, or do you absolutely know right now you will not? Is there a way we can continue to next week and then kind of make a quote, call it a game day decision as we get closer if there's definitely not going to be quorum? I hate to push out construction, delay the contractor extra days. They're ready to go.
And I get it, and we're doing everything we can, and,
Yep.
I mean, we've really only met about this once. This is our second. So we're doing everything we can to get this through as quickly as possible. If you, I don't believe we're a part of the other 3 Talippi Run properties, but it was over a year to get those revetments and the orders. So we're doing the best we can. You know, we understand you're under time crunch, and we're trying very hard
I guess, is there any drawback to planning to be on the next meeting and having to continue again?
Paul?
You know, just
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that if, is it Elise that could phone in, you think? Maybe?
She thinks she will be
Okay.
able to.
So we could go to the 14th, see if she could phone in. We'll know
Okay.
by the 14th, and we can communicate to Dan before the meeting and continue if we can't get her to phone in. It may come down to actually trying to do it and not, you know, she, for some reason, because she's out of the country, it doesn't work, Dan, in which case we'd have to just move on to continue.
I
but we
know
could have the hearing.
she actually, next week, actually, I was incorrect when I said they're both out of the
Oh.
country. She is not out of the country, but I'll have to see. Frank? Yes? I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak at the appropriate time when the public can say something. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Frank, go ahead.
I'm actually watching your meeting for another application, but
Frank,
this is quite interesting.
can you just identify yourself with your full name?
Frank Messina, 58 Island
Yeah.
View Lane, South Chatham, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
As I said, I was just happened to be watching this for another meeting, another application, but I'm a boater, Stage Harbor for many years, and I'm concerned about what's going on in terms of the reluctance of the applicant to clean up his mess and worrying about money. The wrong thing. I mean, I guess the issue of liability is something we can deal with. Also, more intrinsic, my question is, have you folks established a precedence? I mean, you know, in 75 years, Morris Island's going to be gone, and you know, what are we doing here? I mean, the wildlife refuge is losing, and naturally they're not doing anything, and it's impacting these people. But that's, you know, that's what happens when you buy a property right on the ocean. You're going to lose it eventually, and nothing's forever, especially on Morris Island. I just hope that we, the town of Chatham, and you, the Conservation Commission, haven't, you know, taken a step that we're all going to regret when we see revetments all over the place, which do nothing more than accelerate the water volume of the water, you know, the speed of the water, and create problems for everybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Okay. So I think we've established we will continue it till the 14th, and which is next week. I will connect with Elise and make sure that she absolutely can attend, and we'll be able to attend the following meeting after that if we go to an order, which I hope we can for you. Because she will have to be at both in order for us to have a quorum, because we will be missing Janet at next week's. And she actually personally had asked that we not take this on then, but.
Okay, that works.
All right, we will,
Thank you.
if we could have a motion.
I move that we continue 97 Tillipy Road to the meeting on August 14th, 2024, for an order of conditions.
Not for an order of conditions.
No, for a notice of intent.
Oh,
We're going to do that on
oh, for an order of intent.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had hoped.
Oh, you hoped, okay. For an
That
notice
was
of intent.
That was a hope and a prayer.
I second.
Okay, Paul?
Aye.
Aye.
Carol? Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right, Paul, we're on to the next.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is 159, this is a notice of intent application, 159 Sea Pine Road. The applicants are Michael and Elizabeth Baldwin, map 11K, parcel HC13. I don't have a full DEPSC number for it at this moment. So it's demolition of an existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling within land subject to coastal storm flowage. And I will look up that number. If I can find it before the hearing ends, I'll give it to you.
Thank you.
Good
How are
afternoon. David Clark, Clark Engineering on behalf of the Baldwins. They are in the audience this afternoon. As stated, we're here to seek an order of conditions to demolish the existing house and replace it with a new dwelling. The resource areas associated with Crow's Pond are a revetted coastal bank and the floodplain. The floodplain encompasses nearly the whole property. It goes past the house and includes the depression that's between the street and the house. So we're very constricted as to where we could redevelop this house. Making the situation worse is our zoning bylaw that prohibits any alteration of the ground within the floodplain. We did, as one of our alternatives, we did consider moving the project further back from the bank, but that pushes us further down the slope to the depression, which requires a lot more, or requires cutting and filling for the driveway, which we're prohibited from doing under the zoning bylaw. So we were kind of stuck with the footprint we had, or the general location where the existing house is. So we did our best to move it back. As you can see, the existing deck is quite close to the top of the revetment. So we've pulled that back along with the house. So the deck itself is inland of the face of the seaward face of the existing house. So I think there's a considerable amount of improvement on that side of the house. So there is a slight expansion, primarily due to we're losing the basement. Right now, there is a basement in this house, and under the building code and FEMA regulations, you cannot have enclosed space below the lowest adjacent grade outside the house. So there is an increase in the footprint of the house. And that's reflected in our area calculation. So within the floodplain itself, there's a 241 square foot increase in site coverage. There was an email earlier this week regarding the buffer zone, the 1500. I chose not to put that on this plan because the way I read the bylaw, the adjacent upland resource area is adjacent to a resource area, and this is all floodplain. I did email a site coverage calculation that kind of, I think, is what was asked for, but it's the same numbers presented in a different manner. Because we're working in a resource area, we've provided nearly 1,000 square feet of mitigation, which is on the Blue Flags plan, far in excess of 3 to 1, and closer to, and actually it's in excess of 4 to 1. As far as other mitigation, since we were reconfiguring the driveway for access to the garage, all of the driveway within the floodplain will now be pervious. So we're taking up all that asphalt and getting rid of that. Existing Title V system was put in under the 1995 code. There's no reason to upgrade the leach field. However, the septic tank needs to be moved as part of this and will be moved behind the garage. Not much left as far as the engineered plan. I believe, let's see who's on there from Blue Flags.
I don't think anybody's,
There's no Mike or Teresa. Okay.
It's pretty basic.
Yeah. The commission saw this, I don't know who was on the commission back in 2000 or 2001, but we were before the commission. None of you. Really?
You would be the only
Bob
one
wasn't around then?
Close enough, but no.
Yeah, 20 or 21.
21?
21 or 2001?
21 I just got.
21, I think, or 20.
I was here.
But that project didn't go forward, and the Baldwins wind up
Thought
buying
we'd
that
been
project,
to this.
buying the house there.
Yeah, I thought we had. I
Yeah,
didn't look
but,
it up though.
Anyways,
So, one of the reasons I asked about the markings, the buffer, you know, the 50 and the 100 is, what is your, because Teresa's plan does have
Yeah.
it, and what is your coverage in the outer aura? What percentage
right
of the
now,
outer aura? Because it looks like it's
I'm looking for the,
way more than 35%.
well, right now, only 270 square feet of this property is in the 50 to 100. Because not only do we have the coastal bank where the revetment is, the two side slopes on both sides of the house are technically, under your regulations, a coastal bank. So you go 50 from that inward, it only leaves us a 270 square feet right smack in the middle of the house. So we're
So
going.
you're saying we can't go by Teresa's 50 and 100 markings?
Well,
Because she only has
Yeah.
a 50 and a
Yeah.
100, and,
we're at 40, of that 270 square feet, we're about 42 square feet, 42% coverage now. And because the house is retreating, we're moving into that, and we're going to 93%. But it's 270 square feet is the total 50 and 100.
so, but you're 93% total?
Yes. And unfortunately, that's right smack in the middle of
I
the
get
lot
it.
where
No, I know.
everybody wants the house. So,
Yeah.
Can you get credit for the area you're removing out of the 0 to 50?
Well, we can acknowledge
Yeah.
that. I'm going to let other people ask questions. I feel like I've done a lot today. Go ahead, Bob.
I'll shoot a couple of questions off. The shed, the existing shed, David, does that have a permit?
probably not, in that, oh, it does, I'm sorry. It does have a permit. I thought it was there before the ball was on, sorry.
And, let's see, what else did I have? Yeah, so are there gonna be plantings around the new house?
I don't believe Teresa shows any, but if there are any, they'll be straight natives, because we understand that it's all a resource area in the no disturb zone. But at this point, none are proposed.
Okay, so any plantings that occur will have to be approved by the agent?
That would be fine, and we understand because nearly the whole property is a no disturb zone, because it's almost entirely in the floodplain, that they would be 100% straight natives.
Okay,
So,
great. Teresa's not here to go over the mitigation areas. There's that beach grass planting right on top, right at top of the revetment. It looks pretty healthy.
It does.
And you're proposing a steel edging for delineation or demarcation of the mitigation?
Let me just, give me a second, get Teresa's plan.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on the plan.
I thought there was.
Yes.
Okay, and the lawn, the irrigated lawn will remain?
Yes. But it's going to be, on the water side, it's going to be changed to a fescue and microclover, so it probably won't need much of anything.
Okay, so the irrigation will be removed on the water side of the of the house?
I am not going to say yes to that. I would have to consult with Teresa to see if it's needed to remain.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all I have for now, thank you.
All right, anybody else? Go ahead, Cheryl.
You had said that the driveway was going to be pervious, the entire driveway, even the part that goes up to the road, or
No,
is that staying paved?
because it's relatively steep.
That's what I wondered.
We were going to keep that asphalt, but the maneuvering area and the flat area that's all within the floodplain will be pervious.
Anything else, Cheryl?
That's all I was wondering.
Eric? Okay,
The house is above a revetment. The way I look at it.
so,
Crystal reminded us that there's still an outstanding order for the
yes,
replacement of.
and we cannot issue an order until you close that, which I think you said,
Bob Perry is working on
14th.
that. Is working on that, but I don't understand why you can't issue an order. There's nothing in the regulations and there's nothing in the
I
Wetlands
don't-
Protection Act that says you can't.
is Paul, Paul, do you want to speak?
Well, David knows, appreciate the comment, but if you've got an open order, you need to close that out. I'm not going to cite a reg on it, but it's been the practice of the commission for decades to do that. I don't think we've ever deviated from that.
Once, recently.
Yeah, and even though this is a different project, you still have two open orders, and DEP frowns upon that, although I will acknowledge that the one Bob's working on has nothing to do with the current one that David's working on. Having said that, I talked to Bob yesterday. I think he'll have it in for the next meeting.
Yeah, I understand there's a DEP policy for 2 orders and conditions for the same project.
And this is a
Right, this
different
is not
project,
the
I
same
get that.
project.
But what if doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of concerns. We do need to know if the irrigation will still remain in the back or not. We'll condition that, of course, anything that's put around the house would have to be approved by the agent. We have to have a variance for the 95% coverage. But obviously, you don't have a lot of control over that, so that's okay. Go ahead, Bob.
I just had one other comment. Where the mitigation is, you have some plants that are going to grow pretty tall. Beach plum, sumac, inkberry, even bayberry can get high. That's going to obstruct some of the view. Just as a comment, I don't know if Teresa's able to put any shorter plants in that area. But I'm just thinking about long-term, how they're going to grow as they reach maturity.
You mean the trimming?
Thank you.
Some of they'll be forced to trim.
Well, they
Yeah.
wouldn't, not supposed to.
No, right.
So that might be a concern, in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure Teresa has had that discussion with them, and just looking at the grades, our first floor is going to be up at elevation 14.
Okay.
And so the top of the revetment's elevation 10, more or less. So I'm sure that was considered, but thank
Okay.
you for the heads up.
Sure.
So I think we'll get the request for a COC for next week. What if we scheduled this for the 28th?
We're going to ZBA, I think, the 22nd.
Are you? Yeah, I thought,
So 28th would be fine, yeah.
yeah, you are, and that's why I had down the 28th,
Yeah.
okay. And then we could do an order at that time, and if you need something for ZBA saying, a letter saying that we've reviewed this and there aren't any great issues, we can do that,
That would be appreciated, yeah.
okay? Okay, then I think we can continue this to the 28th for an order.
I move that we continue 159 Sea Pine Road to the meeting on August 28, 2024 for a order of conditions.
I second.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Paul, we are doing.
Yeah, just for the record too, the 159 does have a full DEP number. It was up on the screen, 3696. My agenda just didn't have it.
Okay,
Next on the agenda is 60 Robbins Way, notice of intent, applicant Yuji, I'll give this a shot, Sugimoto, map 10K, parcel 12-19, DEP number, don't have it all here, SE 36. I'll have to look it up. Proposed driveway, reconstruction and installation of a septic system with an IA component, including plantings. That's the project.
Good afternoon.
hi.
For the record, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast. We're back into an easier one. 170 square feet of increase. We've requested a variance for a little bit of landscaping that's going on within the 50. A slew of native plants on that list, some in the outer buffer that are not so native, but we're meeting the 75%. The applicant was looking to upgrade the septic system. There'll be a denitrifying septic system going in that'll allow for the conversion of an office to have a door on it. The leaching field needs to be replaced. It'll be sited outside the 100-foot, so there's all benefit there. The driveway's a little bit tight as it stands today, so they'd like a circular driveway. That's what adds the 170 square feet. It will be the same pervious material that we have out there. And I do have Shannon here to be able to review the landscaping plan.
Go ahead.
Hi.
If you could identify yourself
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry.
It's okay.
Shannon Goheen, Second Nature Garden Works. So Thad told me that our mitigation requirement for this was 170 square feet. I managed to put in 740 square feet in front of the applicant's deck, which faces the water. There's currently a spruce tree there, and it makes total sense to just remove a lot of that grass and go with complete native wildflowers, grasses, that sort of thing, which I have listed on the plan in that box. As that bed goes around, it passes beyond the 50-foot mark and goes into the 50 to 100-foot as it curves around the front of the house. And that is, we've got, that is approximately 75 feet, square feet. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. The size of the beds, the total size of the beds from that area, taking off that area that says end of 740 square feet, so the rest of that, curving around to the driveway, that's approximately 1,040 square feet. I have some non-natives in there, 275 square feet roughly. And the natives are 765 square feet.
Okay, one thing is, and maybe I just am not, oh, there's the 50. So in the 50 to 100, what percentage natives do you have?
We have probably about 10 square feet under 75.
Okay, because it has to be at least 75. And the only hydrangea that you're putting in that is considered native is the smooth hydrangea. All the rest of the hydrangeas are non-native.
So you're talking about arborescence, you consider that's acceptable to you? which I have put in here, which means that I have more natives than what I just said.
Well, no, of the hydrangeas, I was making sure that you weren't thinking that any of the other hydrangeas that might be
yeah, I
in
know
that
that.
area are native, because they're not.
I know, and I
And we've
took
gone through this, some people think oak leaf hydrangeas are native, and they're not considered native. So that was one of my things, and
I did take them out of my calculations. They're not included in the native number.
Okay.
And I also took the smooth arborvitaes out because I wasn't sure if you accepted them. So they have also come out. So if they can go back in, then I am well over 75%.
I'm going to let my
Can I also just comment?
horticultural experts deal with that, but go ahead.
On the other side, so north, within the Inland Conservancy District in the bordered vegetated wetland area, I also added something that wasn't required. I added a strip that's approximately, it's just under 1,000 square feet of complete natives, Joe Pye weed and Asclepias
Butterfly weed.
incarnata.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I really went big time on the natives here.
Well, we like native. Are they straight natives?
Yes, they are.
They're on the list?
Yes, they are.
Sorry. The
Eupatorium.
question I had for you is, how bad does the water come up there at that? Because usually we like the mitigation to be contiguous with, usually it would be on the water's edge or up a little bit from the water's edge, the area of mitigation, not around the foundation. But how bad, does the water come high there, the salt water?
The salt water's not too bad there. I mean, we do have a coastal bank. We do
Because
have
it's pretty
lawn.
much a field, I mean, it's a good Cape Cod lawn, I can tell. But it looks like it's pretty much a mowed field all the way down.
Pretty much. I mean, we do have the coastal
It's kind
bank.
of a strange area to be contiguous, though, isn't it?
Well,
Usually we like the mitigation to be contiguous with nature, not
So you'd like it along the shoreline?
usually, but in this case, I'm not really.
I mean, she's extending it.
Yeah.
It
is
It's
kinda
hard
close.
to see all the lines, the 50, and I don't see a single 100, but that could be just me.
Yeah, they are on there in a red. above
Yeah,
the 50.
that's what I thought, I just didn't see where, and so, the other thing is, usually we ask that you demarc it, so that nobody's going to, alter it in the future, because it does have to be taken care of forever. So the fact that and I appreciate you've got other areas, but you're going to have a lot to mark, given,
And to be candid, I would consider the foundation plantings not the mitigation, but that strip to the north is prime. That's up against a more naturalized area.
it is, it has the most
is,
strip,
and
yeah, and there is a
that would
most
be-
strip,
And
and
it's the
that makes
closest to the,
sense,
closest to the water too, is the area off the
Yeah.
deck is pretty large, so it's kind of contiguous, you know?
Well, we have a wetland on one side and a
Yeah.
wetland on the other, so we've
And
just,
you've got red and, 100-foot all over, and 50 and 25. I mean, it makes it kind of hard to tell. That's why I was questioning the hydrangeas, because looks like there's a lot of them within our area. I'm going to defer to others. Bob, did you have anything?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. The spruce on the deck side of the house, that existing, it's right up against the house. Is that going to be pruned?
It could be.
Okay, so
I
that
was
would,
just planning on leaving it in place and working around it.
yeah, it could be, if it could be pruned away from the house, that would be a good thing. And the existing linden tree on the east side of the house, that big linden, that's a huge linden, huh?
Yeah.
I think that had invasives around it, or,
I think there's probably a lot of invasives all around the top of the coastal bank. I didn't get involved with that. But yeah, there's invasives everywhere. There's invasives all through the Inland Conservancy District. I mean, everywhere you look.
yeah. Even for some of those specimen trees, those ornamental trees, be nice to get some invasives away from those trees if they're on the property. It looks like this one is just on the property. Just wondering if you've thought about removing some of those invasives from those prized trees.
We can certainly do that.
Or you can even cut them down so they
I mean,
die
just
off.
trim them back and
Yeah.
keep at it, and either win the fight or keep trimming them back.
Yeah. And you could have a mow strip behind those, the Joe Pye and Butterfly. That's a good thing. The Leyland Cypress to the right of the entrance, driveway entrance, if you're driving into the property. It's pretty gross, huh? But that's not on the property.
I
No, that's
was
on the
thinking it's on someone else's property?
It's on the Boynton property.
Oh, oh, you mean those Lelands down there? Yeah, we
So
can't
you
do much about
Can't
that.
touch them. They're pretty gross.
Yeah,
There's a lot of-
unfortunately, they're there.
Some care.
And they kind of hang, you probably could prune them somewhat. I think they're probably hanging over the property line, maybe.
Well, the neighbor will have to, or he won't be able to use his right-of-way.
Leland cypresses, they make enemies out of neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, well, just to give it some thought, you know, as you're driving in, they look pretty ugly, if you can do anything there, but, aside from that, I think, you know, you have a lot of plantings in here. I think it's definitely an improvement, over what's there now. Thank you.
I love this plan. I like that the plans kind of go around the house, going from all natives, and then they start mixing in some other kinds of things. I really enjoy that. I also love this plan that you've given us. It's very clear.
Thank you.
And easy for me to like visualize what this property's gonna look like, which is very helpful for me, because I'm not a landscape person. So this has been very helpful for me, and so I really appreciate how you marked it.
Great.
And the things and that you actually put the mow strip in without us asking. That was really nice too, because we don't always see that. But I appreciate that you are really bound in by water in all kinds of places, and I really like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Bob Boynton, you have your hand up? You're muted if you want to speak.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes, you are.
The Leland cypress do not hang over the property line at all. They have already been trimmed back. As far as ugly is concerned, that's a value judgment. I don't think they're ugly. And they also provide privacy between the two properties. Now, when they have hung over the property line, which it did most recently, UG asked me to trim it back, and it was trimmed back immediately. And if it does ever go over the property line, I will trim it. I don't need to trim it any further to get into my lower driveway. So I think the Leland cypress, other than people's aesthetic feeling towards them, are not an issue here. Also, while I have the floor, I had written a letter to the commission asking that the proposed driveway easement that's mentioned on the ESC plan, since the UG and I have already agreed on the location and the dimensions, that I think it should be those location and dimensions should be included on the plan. That in no way, to me, is a deal breaker. I very enthusiastically support UG's application. But since we have agreed on those dimensions and locations, it would make more sense for them to be shown. They could still be labeled as proposed because the lawyer hasn't finished his end of the work yet. but we're in agreement as to where the easement should be.
Is that amenable to you to put it
When
on?
a document is properly recorded at the Registry of Deeds,
Right.
I will be more than happy to update the plan, but when there is not the legal document,
Right,
then I have a hard time
putting it.
putting it on the plan. And as far as the Leland cypresses, I think that the commission is pretty consistent at saying that non-natives are ugly.
Non-natives aren't just non-natives. Some non-natives are better looking than natives. But
Fair
if
point.
we're going to get into the issue of what's recorded with regard to the easement, there is an existing easement that is recorded, then it should be shown until the proposed easement, again, which we both agree on, replaces it.
And this is hardly the forum to get into the aspects of, or the legal aspects of recordation versus plan versus deed.
It's the correct forum, since it's a land use hearing, to show all elements
Well,
of land
excuse
use
me.
that currently exist.
Excuse me, what we're hearing is the part of the plan that is within our jurisdiction. That's all, it's not, yes, it is land use, but it's the use of land within our jurisdiction, which is within 100 feet of wetlands or water. So it's a little different than, we don't look at the entire property. Just to
Fine.
clarify.
The existing easement is within your jurisdiction. It goes down past the 100-foot mark. And, man, all I'm suggesting
And again, this is not the
you
forum
could-
for such a discussion, Mr. Boynton.
Okay, it does
And I
have,
disagree.
excuse me,
If
it does
it's in
have,
juris-
it does have an easement on this site plan. It says Robbins Way easement and has it absolutely shown, if that's what you're concerned about.
No, I'm not. I'm concerned about the driveway easement that exists that extends beyond the Robbins Way easement. Look,
So you're saying there's a
commission-
second
There's an
easement?
additional easement, a driveway easement that extends, and it's in your jurisdiction. All I'm saying is you should have the most available information presented to you when you're making a decision.
No, I
don't think
appreciate that.
either way.
If
is
I
gonna
may,
affect-
through the chair.
Yes.
I've had numerous discussions with Mr. Boynton on this, and he lacks the understanding of our legal system. He had a plan drawn after the fact, no conveyance coming from it. That driveway easement that he's referring to is not in effect, it's just drawn. He needs a legal document prepared by an attorney, recorded at the Registry of Deeds between the two parties in order
Right.
to effectively make that easement. He has lacked the understanding of this, and I'm tired of talking about it. This is not the forum.
That's fine.
I'm talking about the existing one, which is recorded, in which you left off the plan.
I'd like to close the
and
hearing,
must be
please, or
improper.
continue it.
We can continue it. When would you like to continue it to?
Are there any other questions by the commission?
Bob?
I just have a quick question, Thad. The cobblestone driveway, is that going to be, it's going to be pervious?
The shell driveway will be pervious. The cobblestone section is actually just outside the 100.
Yeah.
Oh, it
So
is?
they can wet set that.
Okay.
And there's just an edging to hold all that in place, but it
Okay.
is completely pervious.
Okay. The edging will be.
Well, cobbles are usually held together with cement, you
Oh.
know, so they, otherwise, when a car drives over it, it wiggles and gets jammed into the ground, and I
Right,
would
but
think
technically
Eric could speak to
cobblestone,
that.
cobblestone cemented is considered pervious, which you have to calculate the actual square footage of as far as mitigation, but in this case, You said it was out of the 100, right?
We put it in the right spot.
Yeah, good.
So when would you like to continue it to?
When would work be starting on this?
This one?
Probably not till sometime in the fall.
So it's at your discretion. Anytime in early September would be fine.
Okay,
When is your least busy meeting?
right now, September's not bad. So we have September 4th, 11th,
The
or
4th would be fine.
25th. Okay, so we'll continue it to September 4th. If we could have a motion.
I move that we continue 60 Robbins Way to the meeting on September 4th, 2024, for a notice of intent.
I second.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, we'll see you
Thank
then.
you so much. Have a
Thanks.
great afternoon.
Okay, Paul, the next.
Okay, Madam Chair, next on the agenda is actually the last notice of intent application. No, I'm sorry, yeah, it is. It's Zero Crosswind Farm, Joseph and Jeremiah and Hannah Ewart, map 10J, parcel 17A, LP 36, DEP number SE 103688. The project is proposed single-family dwelling.
Thank you. They're just setting up, I assume, something to look at. Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, my name is Hannah Raditz, wetland scientist with BSC. In front of you this afternoon is a revised application for the site at Zero Crosswind Farm Roads. What was submitted to Conservation Department and Conservation Commissioners last week was a revised plan, which is in front of you now, as well as a revised letter to discuss the changes on the plan, as well as some other questions that were brought up at the previous hearing. With your permission, I'll go ahead and dive into the letter.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right. So a quick overview of the revisions that were all reflected on this revised plan for the project. As we discussed in the last hearing, the mitigation area needed to be altered. What was originally proposed was a mitigation area that was closest to the inner aura and the resource area of Riders Cove and associated ACEC across the roadway. But as discussed, the commission desires more continuous vegetation. So we have changed up the mitigation area, which is this polygon that follows the northern border and bumps out a bit. This area will include trees as well as shrubs. In addition to that, we have changed up the proposed native meadow, which previously had been called out as mitigation area, but as the applicant desires to mow this area at least once annually to maintain it as a native meadow, this is now being called out as a restoration area. And that includes the green, which was also expanded by 719 square feet to go along the edge of the driveway and then up to the edge of the roadway. These two areas combined between the mitigation area and the restoration area comprise about 40%, a little over 40% of the site, and 8,900 square feet. The mitigation area also now reflects an appropriate amount for one-to-one mitigation for impacts to the outer aura of coastal bank and salt marsh, which would require 2,610 square feet, and we're proposing 2,683. What was also requested by the commissioners is that all trees within the conservation's jurisdiction were included on the plan. They're a little hard to see, but essentially we've got only 2 trees to be removed within the outer aura of coastal bank, and the remaining 8 trees are located within the ACEC. And what's proposed in the mitigation planting area is 11 trees, 2 oaks, or three oaks and 8 red cedars. The oaks will either be red or black, depending on what's available at the nursery, and will replace the trees that are going to be removed on the site, which are all red cedars or black oak. One last note before I get into some more nitty-gritty. The parking area, it was requested at this last meeting to see if we could change any of the material of that driveway. So that parking area, which is that area that depicts a car in that corner, will now be converted to gravel, which reduces 657 square feet of impervious paving on the site. Also, as we'll just dive in a bit more to the mitigation area. It was proposed last time that we should have a wider variety of shrubs with a greater difference in height. That is reflected on this plan. Much of the mitigation area is taken up by the trees as they need a lot of space. But we now have a greater diversity of shrubs within that area. And what is also now proposed as a note is that after this planting takes place, the area will be stabilized with the same seed mix that will be used in the native meadow. So that will extend those native grasses into the tree area, which may die out over time with the shade, but some of them are a bit more shade tolerant, so we'll have a better coverage of forbs under the trees. For the restoration area, as I mentioned earlier, it was expanded slightly to go along the edge of the driveway, which will provide more of a stormwater buffer, stormwater retention and filtration, as well as enhanced displacement of any floodwaters that should come to the site. We're out of any zone that would expect waves, but should a flood come up, it's usually at a flat level expanding, and therefore this meadow, as well as the trees, will propose a bit of a buffer so that no displacement should reach the house and then ricochet onto neighbors' lawns. They'll have that dense buffer from the hill. All of land subject to coastal storm flowage will be restored, which is on the site. All of the inner aura of salt marsh and coastal bank will also be restored, either with the mitigation planting or the restoration, and much of the outer aura of coastal bank and salt marsh will also be planted. In the letter that we submitted last week, we did address some of the questions from the commissioners at the last meeting. They had to do with considering revising the plan or slightly redesigning. One was to reduce the driveway or change its orientation, as well as see if permeable material was possible. In conversations with our engineer and survey department, they believe that it is just too steep to have permeable materials. It would require a lot of upkeep, and if it were to be gravel or even permeable pavement, it would require a lot of upkeep or could clog the drain, and the drain that is either at the edge of the driveway or the catch basin that's on the roadway. So that's why we are keeping it as paved asphalt for the driveway, but reducing in the area where we could, which is the parking area. In terms of reducing the driveway, that would require moving the house slightly. And that leads into the next question: could the house be rotated or moved in order to spare some jurisdictional resource areas? As we discovered in our site survey, there's only a few trees within the outer aura that would be impacted, and even shifting it further towards the outer aura, which is not what we were wanting. We're trying to keep the house as far away from those resource areas as possible, would only spare a few cedars within ACEC. So the change is not large enough that we considered it was helpful or useful to the interests of the Conservation Commission. We also went into great detail on the benefits of grassland and meadow, which I can go into further detail. I know it was a bit lengthy. But essentially, I cited a few studies that showed that New England's meadows are hardy, but they have historically, even before humanity, based on these reports, shown that they only exist due to natural causes, such as fire, which we don't allow on the Cape for good reasons, certainly not this close to people's homes, or with management in one way or another. And on that note, the maintenance of this meadow with annual mowing outside of Audubon's recommended mowing season, which usually starts from about mid-May to about mid-August, would still allow for the maximum benefit for pollinators, reptiles, small mammals, and birds, but also keep this meadow as a foreland and not as a shrubland or eventually forest. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to the commissioners for any questions and comments.
Okay, just have a couple. I think you need to update your coverage table. Now that not everything is mitigation, you're using restoration and mitigation, because it says you're doing 6,455 square feet across the inner and outer. This is what you submitted to, with your notice of intent. I mean, I guess it's now on the plan is really what I should be looking at,
Yeah,
rather than having it separate. Okay.
I believe that the 6,000 number should pertain to the restoration area, which we're keeping separate from mitigation,
Right.
and the 2,863
All right, I'm
is
going to just
mitigation.
cross off what's in your application.
Apologies.
No, that's fine. I just wasn't actually looking at that.
We were throwing a lot of
And,
numbers around.
I don't see on the plan the trees that are coming out marked on the plan. So usually we have that, so we can make sure that the trees that you say are coming out are, on the plan are what's actually taken out and not others. You usually mark any trees that are within the jurisdictional areas, and you say, there's this tree's out, put an X maybe, this one's cedar's coming out or whatever, and you have another one that's staying in. The ones with X's would be marked
As removed.
so that we know and we can verify that what you say is coming out did and what you say is staying did. Because, I saw things hanging off of some of the trees, so I know they're coming out and accounted, and it's 10. But we need it on the plan.
Okay.
What else do I have? I'm going to let somebody else go for now while I look at further. Anybody else? Bob?
Just a couple of quick questions. So the current site doesn't have any irrigation, correct?
The applicant who's in the audience might be able to speak to that since he has some history on the site.
Hi, for the record,
Hi.
I'm Joe Girolamo. There's no irrigation on the site, but there was a hoses put in years ago by my great aunt who previously owned the property, but it's not connected anymore, and we don't
Okay.
use it.
Okay, so there'll be no new irrigation on the site?
Nope.
Permanent irrigation, I should say. Can the mitigation areas be demarcated with any material, any edging or rock or anything like that? Especially like the meadow area, so it doesn't get mowed into?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a member.
Are there like certain types of fences or like natural rock barriers, placement of stones? Yeah, so we could make it look
Yeah, just
natural.
put placement of stones on the
Okay.
edge.
And there were, when I visited the site, there were invasives on the back end of the property along where the cedars were. I can't remember the invasives. Will those trees be removed now? Is that what you're proposing?
Was it invasive tree species? that
No,
you
well,
noted, or
there were red
vines?
cedars, and there were probably some vines growing through those. Will those trees remain, or will they be removed?
So on our updated plan, we'll definitely reflect the trees that are proposed to be removed. Anything beyond ACEC, we did not include on the plan. So that's probably the area that you're looking at, and the area that's showed as, oh, here's my pointer. No, you're good. the area that's shown as grading here, which is allowing for a more gradual descent on the slope. And that is an area that we didn't capture trees in, but probably has some of those cedars and potentially the vine, which I'm imagining is probably bittersweet. Yes. Yeah, bittersweet.
So if they are going to be, if you're going to retain some of those trees, if you could remove those invasive vines, that would be something that I'd like to see. Yeah.
I agree, yeah.
We could include that as a note in the order of conditions, which could be tied into the, I anticipate 3-year observation of the mitigation and restoration areas, also to observe the invasive removal and track how it goes over those 3 years.
Well, just so you know, the invasive removal is in perpetuity. Just so you know, because when you go for a certificate of compliance, it will say that maintaining mitigation is in perpetuity as well as invasive management.
Is there a limitation if it becomes something unmanageable? I don't think on this site it is unmanageable, but if in the case that the applicant shows that they've put in effort over the 3-year period and not seen a significant dieback, is there a way to release them from it?
I don't understand the question about the invasives. Why do they have to remove invasives if it's,
It's voluntary.
oh, it's voluntary, so then they're gonna get hooked on 3 years if they volunteer, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of money.
And is this part out of our jurisdiction, where you're voluntarily, like, just clipping the invasives out of the cedars?
I believe it is.
Cut them at the base and
You're
let them
just
die off.
cleaning up.
If it's out of our, Bob,
think
what
they're
are you
just
talking about, outside our area?
This area
or-
back here at the far corner of the lot?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
believe so.
I think-
that's outside of ACEC, but there
Right.
could be some on the edge.
You're just cleaning it up a little bit,
Okay.
so it looks
As
better.
long as it's out of our jurisdiction. I thought he was talking about in our area, because there are trees that will remain in our area. And I thought you were talking about that area to maintain it.
It's like northwest of the house, like in the backyard.
Oh, okay.
Very
Yeah, it
few
is.
of the trees in that corner, due to the necessary land clearing for the site, will remain. Most of the trees that are within your jurisdiction that will remain are within the front
Right.
part of the property. But that's why we're proposing to replace them with 11 trees within that mitigation planting area.
I'm looking forward to seeing the meadow when you guys have it up and running. It'll be interesting to drive by and see how that works. And so you're intending to only cut it in the early spring and the late fall? Is that what it sounds like?
That's usually.
Well, you work with Audubon, don't you?
I do, but not with plants. I'm a coastal waterbird monitor. But, yeah, whatever is recommended to maintain it as a meadow rather than letting it grow too wild or too tall.
Right, you don't want it to succeed to the next.
Exactly,
Right,
yeah.
so okay.
The advice that I saw from Audubon and some other articles that I looked up recommended skipping that spring mow because sometimes you can get early pollinators, early birds that arrive to do nesting or foraging. They recommended mostly avoiding that summer, so September or October would be an optimal time to mow that field to cut down any early successional species, but not impact the species that are using it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it'll be an improvement. Anything will be an improvement on a green mowed lawn, even though it wasn't irrigated, it was, say, green. It's a very small house. I mean, you made all kinds of agreements, and I do agree that the driveway should be paved going up. And you've got the parking lot now, the parking area is pervious. I mean, I personally don't have an issue with this.
Anybody else on the commission? I know we have a hand up, and I will call you after the others. Anybody else? All right, Mrs. Whittle, I'm sure I see you have your hand up. Ms. Whittle?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good afternoon. I am Carolyn Whittle.
You're,
a butter on 10
wait a minute, you're
Orange Road.
echoing I think you probably have your speaker on when you're speaking, so you're echoing.
Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. Oh,
Okay. All right.
no,
Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Whittle, a butter at 1013 Orleans Road. In response to BSC's letter of August 1st, 2024, I'm in a disagreement that the proposed dwelling cannot be moved. I'm also concerned that more trees than stated will be lost in the building of this proposed dwelling. That being said, I have two main concerns today. The first is the execution of fulfilling the mitigation plan. The second is maintaining the current appearance of an
Excuse me.
historical. Can you still hear reverb?
we can, and
Is that
you're
working?
reverberating, but we all, the commission did receive your email, and we all have read it. So we are on a time crunch, and we have 5 more properties to deal with. So if you could summarize your concerns, that would be appreciated.
Okay, so I also had corresponded on July 17th, and I had a number of concerns. I can just list those.
I
had a concern
believe that
about the-
didn't you address those in our last meeting?
No, because the applicant was not available and asked for continuance.
Okay. As
I-
long as you can
should I
summarize,
just make
because
those
I'm
for the
going to,
record?
I am going to have to hold you to 5 minutes, because we are in a time crunch.
Okay, so if I understand the plan correctly, 10 trees are being removed, 11 will be planted, and it looks like the 11 of them are all being planted along the highway and along the northern border. And the northern border is my entire property line, and that would interfere with my water view and my property value. I would invite the Conservation Commission and a representative from BSC to come onto my property and look at my concerns. My neighbor, who's also a co-abutter, shares the driveway with me, is also willing to work with BSC and the neighbors. I also have concerns about the environmental and historical value of that property. The lot being used for the proposed dwelling and the lot next to it have not just environmental concern, but value, but significant historical value. It's my understanding from conversations with the Chatham Historical Commission that there have been recent updates to the townwide archaeological survey to conclude that there is document evidence of Pleasant Hill, which is also known as Burial Hill, and Indian Hill may contain archaeological resources. Can you still hear me?
Yes?
Okay. These two lots were adjacent to the Nickerson Historical Cemetery at one point, or part of it, and also part of a really important archaeological dig, which begs us to respect the land as it is. The proposed development of this lot and the lot next to it will be disturbing sacred ground of both pre-contact Native Americans and our town's founder, his family, and their friends. The abutters are reasonable people. We want an amicable solution to the mitigation plan, but we do not want to see any major changes to this historical property and destroying where a monument once stood. And the tracks to the historical cemetery means that Chatham is condoning the loss of part of its rich origin story. And to me, that is a shame. I'll stop there because I think that's my 5 minutes.
Okay. As far as this historical, that it could have been a burial ground or whatever, have you say the Chatham Historical Society has said that it is a historical site?
So I've done some research. I've talked to the Nickerson Family Association, and I have talked to the Chatham Historical Commission.
And they have verified that it is a historic site?
No,
I
think
can
it would
address
take-
that.
Well,
Go ahead, Ms.
go
Whittle.
ahead.
The reason I'm asking is that if the state archaeological society or the Massachusetts Historical can verify that for us, we need a letter verifying that. And that's not something we can rule on because we have no way to know that. So we need something from an archaeological or historical group that would verify what you're claiming.
So you would want me to secure something in writing from the state?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I believe homeowner would like to respond to it as well.
Yes,
Go-
the 3 continuous lots have been in my family since the mid-'70s, and when the existing dwelling at 32 Crosswind was built in it was built in the '80s, they actually did an archaeological dig that composed of, I think, at least 2 of the lots, if not all 3, and any relics, any arrowheads and things like that that were found were donated to the Brewster Natural History Museum as the Maluso collection.
Okay, thank you. So if you have something beyond that, that would be helpful.
Can I speak, Madam Chairperson?
Yes? Hi, Frank.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
I guess I'm wearing my Chairman of Chatham Historical Commission, and I've been watching your meeting for the last
Right.
2.5 hours, so I'll try to be brief. Very simply, I got a timer. Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting to watch another commission and see how you work. And first of all, it's not in a historical society, it's this Chatham Historical Commission that's involved, and it's Mass Historical Commission that are involved. And as the gentleman said, yes, a dig was done on this property, and it did find archaeological evidence of Indian and pre-contact, pre-colonial artifacts. In addition, the Historical Commission this year, well, actually was last year, completed an archaeological survey update of the town's complete survey of the complete town, as well as hired a second archaeologist to do a survey of the historical cemeteries in Chatham. One which is adjacent to this property. I don't know if it's contiguous anymore because the property's been subdivided so many times. The Nickerson family Nickerson family cemetery, which we it's pretty well proven. This potentially is the location of the Anne and William Nickerson, the original homesteaders to Chatham, which you all know. So we've done this survey, the Historical Commission, and it was brought to my attention that there was a major development going to take place in this area where we do have archaeological evidence of some historical significance and possibly burials in this area, because that's what it was called. So I think, you as the chairman of this commission and I as chairman of the Historical Commission, we've got an issue and a problem. The town of Chatham does not yet have a formal bylaw to protect private property, to protect archaeological resources on public and or private property. We do archaeological surveys when we're on public property. We're private property here. It's another situation. We would love to have that bylaw. In fact, the Historical Commission, myself, and the members of the commission are going to be working on a change to the bylaw so we could increase some authority to you, the Conservation Commission, myself, and the Historical Commission, and possibly the Zoning Board of Commission. When there is evidence, and it's not like you dug up, a particular evidence, but there's good evidence during the survey that this is an archaeologically sensitive area, we want to let the owner and the developer know, be careful, okay? Generally, I would say the proper way to do this, which happens when there is an archaeological sensitive area, which this is that the owner, before they put a shovel in the ground, hires an archaeologist to do a specific survey to the property in question. And if you do find burials, Indian burials, or in this case, possibly even colonial burials, you stop and you be careful how you do it. Right now, if you put a shovel in the ground and you pick up a grave, you call the police come in. Is it an Indian? The Indian Wampanoag Indian tribe comes in. They do some certain procedures, and they put the corpse right back in the ground. But they don't let you build over it, stuff like that. So I guess, I'm betwixt and between here. I'm here to at least highlight the Conservation Commission. They got the request of the owner, Ms. Heddle, no truth why I'm here, that this area is sensitive, and she has some family history that there was, in fact, a cemetery there, or some remnants of a cemetery. So how do we protect this? I don't know. It's a tough one, and I would suggest to the people who are doing this subdivision and the builder that they hire an archaeologist. Now, you could do that in your order of conditions. You could ask them to hire an archaeologist to validate what we believe the survey. And all these records are on file with Mass Historic Commission, not any society. It's the commission. And they can validate the sensitivity of this area for colonial and pre-colonial, going back maybe 5,000-10,000 years. Sorry to be long-winded, and I like that clock. I think I can get one for the historical.
Well, we actually only are using it because we have to be off by 4. And we still
Okay.
have
I'm
5
never
properties to deal with. So that's, thank you,
Thank you very
Frank.
much for listening to me.
Thank you. Ms. Whittle, do you have
Thank you,
anything
Frank.
else?
Wrap this up.
I'm trying.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for that consideration. My major concern based on the current report is the placement of the trees and the fact that I have power lines and cable lines in that area to my home. And I'm concerned about the digging there and the placement of 11 trees that come from the western
Okay.
side versus the eastern side of that property.
All right, thank you. Paul,
Thank you.
you have your
Yeah,
hand up.
real quick, we're on a time crunch. I'm going to run through these next ones as fast as I can. Unlike some towns, Brewster, where I live, there is a local bylaw, and in their local wetland bylaw, they have archaeological interests and performance standards. We don't have that. This is a difficult situation because we have an allegation from a private property owner saying, there's historical evidence here, and then Frank just got on and said there's some. I'm not sure how you should proceed. I think a letter from the state clarifying how we should proceed might be the way to go.
I agree.
And we could take it from there.
Okay, and we're going to have to continue this anyway because they have not
Yeah.
even applied with ZBA yet, have you?
Right.
Does application with the ZBA, is it a requirement to issue an order of conditions?
We won't issue it until ZBA's approved the property.
Approved.
If ZBA, once they approve, we could send it for an order, but we will not write an order until ZBA has approved. Technically, in order to hear any property, which we have not been adhering to because people like to hear our thoughts, if you're supposed to have applied with all of the appropriate departments in the town before we hear it. So yes, we do not, and I think you've been sitting here most of the meeting, we have planned orders to go after ZBA has approved. So we will not even consider writing an order before ZBA hears it. And I think you're going to be pretty far out. I think they're probably pretty much to October at least now, from the feeling I'm getting from seeing when people are being heard who applied quite a while ago. So we're going to have to continue this. So when would you like, there are issues to be dealt with. One, Ms. Whittle's going to get some sort of a letter to us.
Is there a time frame on this as far as getting the letter? I mean,
Well, no. I mean, yes, the sooner the better. You're going to modify your plan to show the trees that are staying in and coming out within our jurisdiction. I think that's pretty much it. So when would you like to continue this to?
Certainly, next week's hearing would be too soon.
Yes.
Perhaps we could tentatively be continued to the last hearing in August. And
Sure.
if we cannot achieve the approvals we need from all Chatham municipal boards, then
Well, you won't have the approval, but at least you will be scheduled. If you apply to ZBA, at least we'll know when it's going to be heard. And in the meantime, if you can modify the plan, and if we get all of the things, we can say, we think it's ready for an order, but not issue an order or vote to approve it till after ZBA.
Okay, I understand now. All right, then if we could have a spot on the last meeting in August.
Sure. We can do that.
28th.
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yes, we are.
I move that we continue 0 Crosswind Farm Road to the meeting on August 28th, 24, for a notice of intent.
Yep.
I second.
All right. Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
All right, Paul, the next.
Yeah, we have the certificates of compliance next, and just let me add a note. I think I might make a call to the state too, because we've never had this historical issue come up.
Yeah.
So maybe they can give us some guidance, and we can do our own independent research in addition to the research that she'll be doing. All
Right, maybe we
Okay,
could
so-
also contact MAC.
Yeah, I agree. It's a
Okay.
sensitive issue, and we should proceed cautiously.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
need to be sure before we continue.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Given the time crunch, I'm going to go through these certificates of compliance pretty quick. I went through all the properties yesterday, was here pretty late, but in any event, let's start out with 43 Shattuck Lane, Ernest Whalen, map 15C, parcel 4, DEPSC number 103178, construction of a stone retaining wall and lawn expansion. This was an after-the-fact filing, invasive species management, and deck expansion. I went out to the site yesterday. The gentleman who owned the property was there. There was a pretty green turf lawn there. I asked him if the commission approved an after-the-fact turf lawn. He said they did, as well as the retaining wall was approved in the deck expansion. There are also markers for the 50-foot buffer. Now, there's been cutting beyond those down to a catwalk, and he said to me, you're going to be hearing from us soon on the catwalk. So I don't have anything on the file on that at this moment, but if the commission did approve this after the fact with this turf lawn, which you guys don't do now, I would say that the application is complete. The checklist is filed, everything's in order, and we should approve the COC for 43 Shattuck Lane.
Okay. David, do you have anything to add?
I don't need to say anything.
Okay, we can do a motion.
Yeah, this is a beautiful job was done here. I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 43 Shattuck Lane.
I second.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
I say aye. Okay, next one.
Next one, 180 Wolford Road, PCL B2, Eileen Sergeson, map 11G, parcel B2, 21-9N. This is a local-only COC, construction of a single-family dwelling. Went to the site yesterday. I think the landscape certification, I didn't see that all the plants were robust. Maybe Eric went out and looked at it as well, I'm not sure, but 95% of them are in good shape.
Yeah.
I don't have any issues with it. The application is complete, checklist. I think there's some ongoing conditions that have been requested as well. So I would recommend approval of the COC with an ongoing condition.
I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 180 Wolford Road, parcel 82.
I second it.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Aye, say aye too. Okay, next.
Next, yeah, and normally, everybody, I'd be in a lot more detail here, but I know we're on a time crunch, so.
Yep.
Next is 70 Judges Way, Everett and Joyce, using map 11B parcel 1B R6, DEP number SE 103440, shorefront protection project. This was a staircase, a small area of shorefront protection with some jute netting placed into the bank. I went out, took a walk down. Everything looked good. It's stable, and the application is complete. The applicant has requested, though, that they have an ongoing condition which will allow them to do ongoing maintenance to keep down invasives, and that's not consistent with the let everything go natural kind of thing. So if we could add that condition in, I'd like to do that. Otherwise, the application's complete, and I recommend approval for 70 Judges Way with a full COC.
You're going to get a hard no on this one from me.
Okay.
I went down there, and I'm starting to see this a lot. I mean, they even had stakes still on the water's edge, stuck in the ground. No one cleans up after themselves. The stakes falling on the ground. It's still, if one of them stakes breaks off, someone steps on it with their bare feet and they get injured. They might look to who. I couldn't say yes on this one until they go clean it up.
Could we put that as a condition?
But I would want to see, I want to see proof. I don't want to, because before, we got into this with temporary irrigation, whether the beds are supposed to be mulched when they're supposed to be naturalized. And then they say, oh, yeah, we promise we're going to go and clean up the temporary irrigation. I'd have to revisit the site and see, or a picture like within, by the next.
Eric, I can contact Time Bond, and we could continue this for a couple of weeks until they can go clean it up. I will agree with you that the picture that was taken, I believe it was in June, didn't look like a June picture to me. Something was off with the documentation on the photographs. But having said that, yep, there's stakes in there that are still left in there. It is stable, but I agree with you. We could certainly continue this for a couple of weeks and let them clean it up before we approve it.
It reminds me of people that pick up their dog feces, they put it in the bag, but then they throw the bag on the side of the road.
Yeah.
All right, so I move that we continue the certificate of compliance for 70 Judges Way, August 28th, 2024.
I second it.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, next one, Paul.
Okay, next one. 32 Sea Pine Road. The applicant is Paul M. Hewins, Revocable Trust of 2018, map 11L, parcel HC, SE 103451. This was a project for restoration of native and woody herbaceous plants, removal of invasive non-native and aggressive plants. Again, the application is complete. Checklist, everything's been filed, orders recorded. Project description is accurate. Photos were submitted. Unless Eric has an issue with this one, I
Nice
think
job.
everything looked pretty
Nice
good.
job.
It was a pretty good job.
No
So,
complaint.
Yeah.
okay, so I'd recommend approval for 32 Sea Pine with a full COC and ongoing conditions.
I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 32 Sea Pine Road.
I second.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye.
All right, last one. We're going to make the deadline. 23
have.
Rover Run. 23 Rover Run, Mark and Jane Johnson, trustees, map 12J, parcel G6, DEP number SE 103217. Project was demolition and reconstruction of a dwelling within the buffer zone to a coastal bank. A partial COC was issued in 8/14/2023. So we're just closing out the remainder for the buffer zone coastal bank work. And again, complete application, good job. Applications checklist complete. List of conditions ongoing. I've been getting really good responses from the applicants with these requirements that we now have for COC material so that we don't have to spend a lot of time going through the file. So I again, this is another one that I think should get a full COC and is in compliance, so I'd recommend approval of 22 Rover Run for a full COC, unless Eric has a problem.
I do have a problem with this one.
Okay,
Because,
I thought
I
you
mean, I'll
might.
do it one more time, but with this temporary irrigation, I mean, it means temporary, right? So
Yes.
the irrigation, the above-ground pipes, I mean, this place has irrigation heads on little one-by-one posts, rotten, ready to fall over. I mean, you know, we keep our end of the bargain. I look at these as just as important as the initial order of conditions, and it should be left in the way the brochures show us, you know, how wonderful it's gonna look afterwards. But, you know, but I'll go ahead with this one, but from now on, these above-ground irrigations, because what happens is it becomes litter. It's just trash. And then what is the
Eric, I could,
homeowner? The
I
homeowner's
could put
supposed
into
to do it?
I could put into the COC that they have to take the temporary irrigation out.
That's what I was
'cause
just
did
gonna
see
ask.
it.
They don't?
Yeah.
They don't have to
We
take
can-
it
we
out?
No,
just put
he's
that
gonna
in
put it
COC.
into the COC that they must.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, well, all right, I'll do it.
All right.
I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 23 Rover Run.
I second.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And I say aye. We have one more motion. Yes, Paul,
just-
David, go ahead.
Thank you for that last COC, and when I go back to the office, I will let the Johnsons know that you graciously approved it, and.
This is
and-
with the Rover Run?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and tell them that, a good faith effort on their part to get the temporary irrigation out of there
Yeah.
ASAP.
Thanks, David. Okay, we have one more motion.
Oh, I move that we adjourn.
I second it.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Thank you, everyone.